So we are back, and I am completely done reading all of the shamanism books on my to-be read list. So I think I'm going to start with the Sacred Energies of the Sun and Moon, which is the one that I still hadn't completed out of The Tooth by Erika. There isn't a lot more to say because up to where I was at, it was mainly talking about the solar rites, and then the half that, or it was not like the half, but like the last third that I still had to read was the rites for the lunar phases. And just like, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. She continues with the theme of giving you what that phase means, what you may want to use like the new moon for, the waxing, the waning, the full moon for. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet that she does when she gives you certain things to try, she doesn't do it every single time, but she will give you examples of how she's used this before. Like right here, she uses coming full circle on a full moon. And that's when she gives an actual personal experience. And that takes me actually to the cleansing rites, because I forgot to mention this, but in this one, because they're cleansing rites, and like I said, these can be performed on other people. Well, mainly these are performed on other people. You can perform some of these on yourself, but she has like certain precautions if you are going to do that. So this is mainly to perform on others. And she will go every now and then into certain specific cases or like client experiences, and she'll give a story. She'll talk about, okay, like this person was going through this in their life and they had an issue with this, and then I did this with them in terms of a cleansing rite, and then this was the outcome. So she'll have actual testimonies in here sprinkled throughout, more than in this one, which makes sense because this is more of like what you're gonna do like for yourself. I think I said that before too in the first part. And this one's like you're performing these rites on someone. Also, she has a similar format in both of these, where before she goes into the actual exercises or rites, she is going to actually give you some background information. And she starts like that with the first few chapters of giving you information, but in different ways as to like the Mesoamerican ways of doing things. And then when she gets to the chapters of the exercises, she'll still give you a little bit more backstory of how those people incorporated either those cleansing rites or how they used the sacred energies of the sun and moon in ancient Mesoamerica. And then she'll go into like the exercises and things to do. So she does have a very easy to follow format. And this one is similar to that one in the sense that when it gives you the subject of that chapter, it was going to give you an intro, sort of like what it is and the experience of Sandra, Hank, and a couple of other different shamans with that subject. And then it'll go into different exercise sprinkled throughout. So it does have a similar format in that sense. And this is like intro into the shamanic path. So these are actually great companion books to have. You start seeing a lot of parallels in both shamanism. You see them talking about animism, of course. You see them talking about the way that they think of energies, the way that they think of the plants, the way that they think of animals, the way that they think about the sun and the moon. It's like, I would just recommend this for somebody who's trying to start getting into shamanism. Like I said, I think 1,000 times already, I would say go to this one first and then figure out if you want to learn about a specific type of shamanism, like maybe the Mesoamerican type of shamanism, or oh my God, there's so many. There's too many to name. And that's one thing about this one is this one's going to give you examples of shamanism around the world, including Mexico. They don't mention exactly Mesoamerican. They talk about more closer to present day. So they'll mention the Huichol in Mexico. And then they'll mention many other different types of shamanism around the world. And they specifically mention the Tibetan Book of the Dead maybe like 10 times, I think. So now I want to buy that book and read it because it was mentioned a lot. So now just fully moving on to talking about this second half of this book that I finished. As you can see, like, there's a lot of stuff that I want to go back to in here. I don't even know where to start with what to share at this point. There's just so many good things. So many good things. Let's see, what's this one? Okay, actually, let me start by reading the second half of the book's title for the chapters. Did that make sense? Who knows? So I think I stopped at chapter 7, which is Creative Art as a Bridge. And then I went on to chapter 8, which was Working with Sound and Light. Chapter 9, Death as a Rite of Passage. Chapter 10, Experiential Work with Death and Dying. I'm going to pause here because chapter 9 and 10 is all about death. And it was just something that I think a lot of people should read, even if they're not interested in shamanism, because it just tells you how to be there for someone when they're dying in such a respectful way and in the least harmful way possible. And then they give you exercises to either give to that person, to do with that person, or to do after that person has passed. And that was just it was so beautiful. Like, I felt so much love coming from these chapters, and I just feel like it's necessary to talk about. I would recommend this book on those 2 chapters alone, to be honest, but this is just a wonderful, amazing book. And I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna shut up. Moving on. Chapter 11 is All Change Involves a Death. So actually 3 chapters on death, but chapter 11 being more about the little death in cycles, in, you know, eras of our life. So smaller deaths, not like the big death, you know. And then chapter 12, Our Children Are Our Future. That one really talks about how to be with children. And that's also a really beautiful chapter. Then chapter 13, Working in Community. Chapter 14, The Transformational Community. Chapter 15, The Return of the Shaman. So the last 2 to 3 chapters are talking about our place in this world amongst people and our immediate community, and then also what we should aim for to have a better collective experience in this world. And then it talks about I don't want to say the New Age movement, but, you know, that, and how we are moving towards a totally different type of way of living, and how this is the return of the shaman, which is the chapter 15 title. I have so many things that are highlighted and tagged in here that I was thinking of reading, and I just feel like this video is going to be way too damn long if I do that. But now I feel like I have to read something, just give you guys like a little snippet. And there's quite a bit of journeys here that are given. I just bumped my camera, I think. Okay, this is something I thought was really interesting. So this part is titled Art in Shamanic Healing. And this is written or is said from Hank. So like I said, this is 2 different authors, but they'll also incorporate a couple other shamans in here. And then at the very end, they'll have each one of them give you like a little like goodbye note at the end for the book. So that's cute. That's cool. I like it. But anyways, so this one was written by Hank. Okay, this one's by Sandra. It says, drawing on her study of the Ulchi shamans of Siberia. I may be pronouncing that wrong. Forgive me. Sandra Ingerman notes the shamans often bring about healing by journeying and using artwork in the same session. And she says there are many different ceremonies that can be done to restore power and by association, harmony within the client. The shamans of Siberia, for example, might work for a person who is ill or suffering from a loss of power in a way that incorporates shamanic art. The shaman will journey into the spirit worlds on behalf of the client to find a power animal or helping spirit who is willing to come into relationship with the client to help restore the client's personal power and provide him or her with support and protection. The shaman will commission a carver in the village to make an image of the power animal, a bear, for example. From the traditional perspective, shamanic art does not represent power. Rather, it is power. The carving of the bear becomes the vehicle, the embodiment of the spiritual power of the bear. So the next step is for the shaman to imbue the carving with that power. When the carving will be placed by the shaman in the client, then the carving will be placed by the shaman in the client's home in order to serve as a literal and symbolic bridge between the person and the bear spirit. And then this right here was another piece I wanted to share. This is in the chapter, in one of the chapters of dying. And one of the shamans says, when I speak with someone who is dying, I stay away from dogma and theory. If I don't know the person well, I try to create a conversation that will give me an idea of his or her philosophical and religious beliefs. From there, I use the vocabulary that will fit into my client's own belief systems. And it's funny that I read this after I had said in the previous video that I like to work with what other people are working with and not just force what I'm working with onto them. So I had to highlight that one because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was saying. And it is a beautiful way to be able to hold space for someone and be there for someone spiritually on their terms, you know, and not just impose your beliefs on them, which I think we've all had enough of, right? Okay, so the last thing I'm going to read from this book, and there's so many good things on here, so I'm only sharing like not even a handful. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to read is going to be from the second to last chapter, The Transformational Community, and it's under the New Spiritual Complex title. It says, the new spiritual complex that is emerging has no name yet, nor is it focused on the teachings of some charismatic prophet, guru, or holy person. Its singular distinguishing feature involves the realization that each of us can acquire spiritual knowledge and power ourselves, making the direct transpersonal contact with the sacred realms that defines the shaman/visionary, without the need for any priest or religious organization to do it for us. In this manner, all people acquire the freedom to become their own teacher, their own priest, their own prophet, and they can receive their spiritual revelations directly from the highest sources themselves. I just thought that was beautiful. Like I said, cannot recommend this book enough. If you're interested in shamanism in the slightest, it is a must read. It may be something that you go to many, many times, full of exercises to try out. Yeah, I'm just so glad that I decided to also read this book last minute when I was doing my TBR, because this book made these books that much more powerful. It was just like, for the type of shamanism that I'm practicing right now, this right here was like a full meal. So yeah, could not recommend that package enough. And I think this book would go great with any other type of shamanism. Like I've said before, if you're interested in a different type of shamanism that isn't Mesoamerican, I would still recommend getting this book. I am going to stop talking because I'm just like, I'm just excited. But thanks for watching and sticking around. I don't even know if this was a review anymore, or if it was just a chatty share with you what I kind of felt like sharing with you, but it is what it is. Thanks for sticking around and watching. I started reading the Chaonomicon last night. Well, the second chapter, the science chapter, and I finished it. I have some thoughts on that already, but I have to get ready because we are going to be going out. So I will probably see you in the car.